And now, welcome to NonSequitur with Kyle Curtis and Steve McRae.
If you have to blink, do it now. If you know where that line is from, you are one step ahead of Steve McRae, because I know for a fact he doesn't know where that comes from.
I'm going to go with Rocky or Grease again.
No.
Those are my go-to for
and
everything.
I'm interested. Well, it's really not even worth playing with the people at home, because they have Google. That just hit me. I'm like, if they really wanted to know where it was from, all they have to do is put that in Google. That's not fair. You cheated.
They don't cheat.
Live chat.
They don't cheat.
No, they wouldn't do that.
They fairly.
Welcome back to the show. Before I get into announcements, we'll say hello to our guest. Coming back for the second. I believe this is your second time on the show. Misha Popov,
Yes.
Welcome back.
Hello, everyone.
And everyone says hello back. So
Excellent.
Steve, how did we do in the face of Kent's retort video and all the madness that happened after last night?
Well, it's kind of funny because a couple of people have noted this. Now, nobody took a screenshot of this, but they have a thread on his video of people that have seen this. When he put his video out the other day, he actually had a link back to our channel. And so he clearly knew that it was going to be on our channel. It wasn't like something that was just for him to have. But, they removed that. But he had a link to the NonSequitur show. Yes. Now, I vaguely remember seeing it. I'm not going to go on a limb and say that I would testify to it. I vaguely recall it, and so I think that was the case. But there's a whole thread of people going, "Yes, that's what we saw," but we didn't have a screenshot of it. So if he had a thread leading back to us, yeah. So he can't say that it had nothing to do with us or anything like that.
It just keeps getting. Well, he spun it last night like. He compared. It was so frustrating. Like I wanted to come through the camera and literally strangle him, because he made this comparison. Like he said, okay, when Walmart goes and buys land, right? Walmart will buy the amount of land that they need for their Walmart store, and then they'll buy up, some peripheral property. And what they do is they build their Walmart, and then they lease that land out to other businesses to come in, and they charge a huge uptick in it because it's right there at a Walmart. Obviously, there's going to be a lot of people there. Well, he said that we were trying to do like those businesses do and get help off of Walmart. Like he was comparing himself to Walmart and us like Payless Shoes that comes in, or Subway.
Yeah, he's out of his mind.
But Kent, I looked back at your videos and I looked back at our videos. Ours get 3 or 4 times the views that your videos do. So you are the one idiot in the country that doesn't know how to run a fucking Walmart, or B, we don't need you. And we were just trying to do something nice and stream to your channel as well. But don't think for a second we were ever like, oh man, Kent Hovind is our ticket to YouTube stardom, because that is a pipe dream.
Yeah. And by the way, I've looked at the numbers before. We've had similar things where we've done things to his channel where he's dual streamed. Just a rough estimate, we get about 10 times the live view. So on an event, we'll have like 1,000. He has like 100. And that's being generous. And most of them are just people in live chat going, Kent, you're an idiot. So.
Yeah. Sorry, I'm taking my towel off. I'm a little warm. Okay. So let's see. I have papers all around me everywhere. Before we get into the talk tonight, let's start out with what we've got coming up. As everyone knows, tomorrow we will be joined by the amazing atheist TJ Kirk. So you can get your questions ready for that. We have several videos that we're going to go through and get his strong opinions on a couple of things going on in politics. Wednesday, I was just telling Steve, we have a guy. I want to make sure I get his last name correct. I always mess it up. His name is Bruce Fenton. Bruce Fenton led a expedition on the Science Channel several years back, but now he has he's written 2 books called The Forgotten Exodus, and then another book that deals with a link between us and aliens from 800,000 years ago. We're breaking this up into 2 parts, this Wednesday and next Wednesday. This Wednesday, we're going to talk about the civilization part, and then we'll get into the aliens next week. But you're not going to want to miss that. Just booked, literally, as we were waiting to come on to this show. Steve, I have a present for you.
I like presents.
Somebody that
can I open it?
Somebody that I actually want you to do your philosophy stuff on, just because I am going to I cannot wait to see how that's going to play out. So
Darren's Didi?
You want to take a guess as to who I got you? Darwin's Didi? No. Even better.
Yeah, he's better. Well, he's a coward. He wouldn't come on.
Let me give you a hint.
Let me give you a hint. Okay.
Let me give you a hint. He's amazing. Amazing.
TJ?
No, he's coming tomorrow.
TJ Kirk, because he's coming tomorrow. Yeah.
Jesse Lee Peterson.
Oh, Jesse Lee Peterson. That's amazing. Yeah,
That's amazing.
I went back and listened to some of his stuff, and I was like, holy crap.
Yeah,
he's a little out there.
So he'll be with us. We're actually gonna be talking about the decline in religion, the increase, in his words, of soy-filled beta males. Also, by the way, Steve, I am a beta male, a girly.
You're a beta male.
How does he put it?
Okay.
A girly man. That's what he says. I'm a girly man. So yeah, this is gonna be fun. So join us for Jesse Lee Peterson on the 18th. That is going to be Monday. And finally, on the 26th, remember that Lawrence Krauss will be with us. Dr. Krauss will be with us. We're going to be talking about something coming from nothing. Sort of like Kent's academic goals. Steve, anything that you want to say before we jump right in?
No, let's dive into this. I'm kind of curious where this is going. Not really. It's been an interesting week, but let's kind of hold off on anything that I've been dealing with on my channel. We'll get to it at some point.
I know what that means.
Yeah.
Okay. So Misha, do you want to take a second and introduce yourself, and then I can sort of explain where I thought we were going, and then where we are going to go.
Sure. Yeah. Well, I grew up in Saskatchewan on a farm. I worked for 5 years as a USDA organic inspector. Canada, most of our product, whether it's organic or not, goes to the United States. So I became a USDA contract inspector. And that was after, by the way, after I cleaned up on off of drugs. I got married early on and hit the bottle and hit the marijuana really hard and lost everything. Came out of that with a bunch of debt, 40,000 in student debt, plus a business loan and a bad mortgage. Worked it all off, and thanks to Jesus, really, it was such an eye opener. That was 23 years ago, and then I began a career, as I say, as an organic inspector. I worked in talk radio and did a lot of print media up in Canada before moving down here to Texas, where I now live with my wife and 3 kids. And I still do writing, editing, and appearances like this when good people like you and Steve will have me. That's
do you want to?
Oh, and I guess
do you want,
Daily Caller would be my claim to fame. They've published about 10 of my articles. Sorry to interrupt there.
Let me wait. Who did you say? What did you say your claim to fame was?
The Daily Caller. I've written for hundreds of outlets over the years. But the Daily Caller is the big one. That's Tucker Carlson.
Yeah.
What was your first article that was picked up by the Daily Caller? I'm just curious.
That would be on the organic industry. Pretty much everything I wrote for them, like 10 or 11 articles, were all on the organic industry. So I'm gonna stick with that.
Okay, so if you guys, you probably some of you probably haven't seen anybody pick it out yet, but let people know where we saw you first here, because you have been here before, and you can kind of let them know what we talked about last time.
Yeah, and that brings me to a little bit more obscure outlet. That's Dr. E. Michael Jones's Culture Wars magazine, and I wrote an article that you guys were interested in a few months ago on what Jesus really meant when he referred to Christians as being the salt of the earth, and that we should possess salt and light. And as you'll recall, it was a great debate with that other Christian guy, and my position still is that Jesus was actually referring to saltpeter, not salt, not Taylor. And saltpeter, of course, being potassium nitrate, the key ingredient in gunpowder. And yeah, that was a good, lively discussion. And yeah, Dr. Jones ran that article. Even though you can get into a lot, if anyone thinks we're going to get into trouble tonight, I got into way more trouble with that article on saltpeter and Jesus. At my church, a lot of people said I was just crazy, and anyway, so that was our last discussion.
What did you get into trouble for?
Because to suggest, as you'll recall, the nature of the discussion is which of the three disciples had it right. You might recall, I think it's Mark doesn't mention this Sermon on the Mount, but the other Matthew and Luke do. And I think it's John's as well. But anyway, Matthew and Luke, they have two different perspectives in the way they recall it. And that's bad because, as I said, you got to pick one or the other. One of them had it more right than the other. Neither is wrong, but one of them is more right. And some Christians don't want to hear that, guys. They don't want to hear that there might be something not so perfect in the Bible, because you'll remember the Bible is breathed out from God through the people who they were just the guys who had the pens in their hand when they wrote it. So here that, as I said, Luke is more right than Matthew. They said that's impossible. So that can get you into trouble. But I don't care. I mean, can't get into trouble every now and then not doing anything right.
Well, speaking of
Ken?
Peter,
let's. I keep calling you Ken. I don't know why I've been doing that. I have a Ken on my brain lately. But you okay, Kyle? It's like you're dying there.
Speaking of Peter, let's get into some gay talk. So I thought initially when I read this, and still I think it's worth touching on briefly, because it's an interesting history piece, I think. But your article, it starts out by talking about a verse that alludes to the fact that maybe there would be something between Jesus and a let me see how you put it. I'm just going to read what you say here. It says it goes back to the night that Jesus was arrested. After Jesus rebuked Peter for cutting off the guard's ear, we read of a certain young man having a linen cloth cast about his naked body, who, when guards tried to seize him, left the linen cloth and fled from them naked. So the theory, which I'll get into in just a second about who introduced that theory, was that that Jesus wasn't praying in the garden before he was crucified, but was in those uncertain terms, preoccupied with other activities, right?
Yeah, that's the theory. Yeah, otherwise engaged would be a way of putting it.
Right. And that the theory, interesting enough, just in case you're wondering out there, was introduced by Hugh William Montefiore at a conference in 1967, because he said that Jesus was celibate in spite of having money and being surrounded by women. Ergo, he was gay.
How does that necessarily follow?
That's just what the guy said at this conference.
Okay.
Yeah.
Do you
I'm
do any stock into
the
that?
gayest person
Yeah.
around. Yeah, I'm more gay than you, Kyle.
What are your thoughts on that theory? Just before I move into the meat of your article, what do you think?
Sure.
Did you throw that in there to be to like give us a little salacious tidbit? Because I didn't know this. Or do you think there might be
the
something?
Montefiore? You mean the Montefiore's?
Yeah, his theory.
Yeah. Specifically, he's there because chronologically he has precedence on this, what I think is an absurd theory. So he's the first that we know of. I mean, heaven knows anyone prior to him may have been excommunicated or burned at the stake, which I would not support.
Probably.
Either of those things. But yeah, he seems to be the first person, and not just some person out there, but an actual, I think he has some sort of theological credentials, and he proposed this in the late 1960s, not surprisingly, right sort of at the height of the whole culture of love, free love and free expression. And so he throws this idea out there, and yeah, and the basis of it that Jesus had money. And by the way, a lot of people think he was poor, but you'll remember the three wise men brought and his parents a lot of goods, including gold, and of course, and they brought him myrrh, which is worth more than gold. So in any case, his parents would have used some of that money to escape to Egypt, so they could escape King Herod's proclamation to kill all children under the age of 2 in Bethlehem. But they had money. They weren't rich, but as long as they worked, which we know Joseph did. People assume, by the way, that Jesus followed his father and was also a carpenter. We don't know that. All we know is that Joseph worked. So as long as he was working, he had whatever sustenance any family in the day would have had. Plus, they had this nest egg that was given to them by the three wise men. So yeah, so Jesus is actually not poor. I don't know if I'd say he's wealthy like Montefiore said, but he's got money, and there he is. And so the conclusion is, well, what do people do with money? Well, nowadays they buy yachts and sports cars, and they have sex all throughout the ages. They have sex more so than the rest of us who don't have money. So you can see someone here again at the height of the 60s trying to reconcile what he assumes would be normal human a normal human response, and the only way he can explain why Jesus doesn't have a whole bunch of women, even though he has money, is because he must be gay. And that's where the whole theory began, that Jesus might have been gay.
And you don't believe that, right?
Well, no, because it's putting human attributes on Jesus. Now, he was 100% human, and we don't know at what point he realized he had this divine nature in him, which was destined to overcome all of his human desires and all of his human attributes. We don't know when that occurred. It looks like it probably happened when he was about 12 years old, because we know that was the first time he was preaching in the temple, and his parents, they lost track of him for a couple of days and were pretty upset. In any case, they found him and all was well. But so it looks like right from puberty, which is when you become sexual, he was starting to realize his divine nature, and perhaps must have known it was going to overcome his human nature and suppress feelings that the rest of us have. And one way or another, if we leap up to the quote of the night that he was arrested, I mean, by then he is totally committed. He's totally committed to his non-human destiny. So that's why the theory of this unknown person who runs off naked, that's why that can't possibly mean that Jesus was having sex in the Garden of Gethsemane. I mean, it couldn't mean that at all.
Okay, for this next part, what I'm going to do is I'm just going to read about midway through your article, and let me get it all out, and then we can
You bet.
just talk about the points. But so that the people who are watching will be familiar. I'm just gonna and guys, bear with me. It's not too lengthy, but I want to make sure that we get all these points out, because we're gonna be going into some deep areas here in just a second. So just bear with me and pay attention so that we can all be on the same page. All right. I'm going to start here where you say that a decade ago, no one of any political or religious stripe or even sexual orientation dreamed we would be arguing about letting men who identify as women go to the bathroom or enter a change room of our daughters. But now, lapsed Catholics like Bruce Springsteen refuse to perform in states that don't allow, nay, endorse or promote the gay bathroom of the future, where everyone gets to relieve themselves behind whichever door they want. Goodbye, family bathrooms. At this point, I'll make the obligatory remonstrance. I have gay friends. Here, I'm going to skip this paragraph too, because you just want people to understand before you go in here that you have gay friends, and so you understand. You want them to understand that you are sympathetic in some ways to this. But I'm gonna pick up here where you say, I've been praying for them as well, and believe me, it's far better to help a friend avoid drugs than to let him falter and then try to intervene. For this reason, I know I must help my gay friends avoid destructive sexual behavior and surgical mutilation. The prospect of a gay Jesus won't help. It's only going to accelerate the destruction of good people's lives. The whole idea was first floated. That was the conference thing that I was just telling you about right there. So I'm going to skip that. People living in places with high rates of homosexuality make fewer charitable donations and volunteer less than those living in predominantly heterosexual Christian locales. But alas, the heresy persists because it serves the larger purpose of undermining the family, with gay scholars saying the only reason we heterosexual moms and dads assume Jesus was like us is that we imposed our heteronormative views onto Scripture. The same way that you and your spouse and probably imposed your heteronormative views on your kids, who should have instead been raised as eunuchs until they were old enough to decide for themselves which gender they were, and then you make a comparison with Celine Dion. Almost 10 years ago, I tried to get this is an anecdote right here where you say that you tried to get a copy of your daughter's sex ed book in kindergarten, right?
Yeah.
Okay. You try to get that. Here you say there was a section on how a child should tell her parents if she wanted to shower by herself, so mommy couldn't see her naked anymore for 5-year-olds, and another explaining something about feelings a child might have for other kids. Since then, I have learned a great deal more that is being taught to our kids, including how to masturbate properly, how to put a condom on, and about sexual transmitted diseases. I'll mention it again. It began a mere decade ago, a time when it was considered absolutely insane to let men use the same public bathroom as women and little girls. But there it is. And any Christian who tries to opt a child out of sex ed will find that child sitting out in the hall at a desk with nothing to do. How quickly things have changed. So please hear me when I warn that gay Jesus is just around the corner. Now, here's where we really get into it. No, it probably won't be preached in your church, no matter what your denomination. The architect of Jesus and the Son of God, our Lord and Savior, is simply waiting to be hijacked. You'll still be free to worship him any way you'd like, just as you're free to believe abortion is murder. But there likely already exists an element within your church that's preaching tolerance, preparing the way for the next generation to be exposed outside of your church to a new version of the archetype, or be forced to sit out in the hall the same way they're already being taught how to engage safely in all manners of recreational sexual activity, gay or otherwise. And if youngsters are fortunate enough not to be exposed to this in school, they're going to be getting it on TV or the internet. It's unlikely that being gay is innate, the way that height and hair color are. It's more likely a learned behavior resulting from broken homes and sexual abuse. which we know leads victims into prostitution and sex slavery. We heard recently of Pope Francis assuring a gay man by telling him, God made you like this and he loves you like this, and it doesn't matter to me. You have to be happy with who you are. As Christians, we're supposed to be happy with what we're promised to become, not what we are in our current fallen states. But if you happen to buy into this spiritual stagnation, then Pastor Robert Jeffrey's approach must be kept in mind when he advises that if your child should decide he's gay, you don't have to invite their homosexual lover into your home, but let your son or daughter always know that you love them. Gay people should no more be encouraged to engage in homosexuality than heterosexual might be encouraged to engage in an extramarital affair. Yes, we know that things happen, and sins can be forgiven as long as one does not persist in them. And no, a gay couple pretending that they're married doesn't change the fundamental equation. If it did, the wounds of Jesus Christ our Lord would become meaningless. I'm going to skip this next paragraph right here and get to this one right here. Gay marriage is to be avoided, along with sodomy, which is a violent and highly unhealthy activity. There is no way to make it safe. Indeed, most people are blissfully unaware that the Food and Drug Administration does not, in fact, recommend condoms for anal sex because they fail, and the feds don't want lawsuits from all the gay men who are already succumbed to manners of debilitating sexually transmitted diseases, including AIDS. You would never sodomize someone you love any more than you would charge a loved one interest, which is usually if they needed money. To do so would be unnatural, something you shouldn't even consider doing to an enemy, let alone a friend. And we're getting right towards the end here in just a second. There is no safe anal sex regarding Teen Vogue tried to tell our daughter in the May edition. It is therefore perfectly rational and consistent with the Old Testament to conclude Jesus was not gay, nor were any of his disciples, for it would mean Jesus was not blameless when he gave his life for us. Let's face it. Let's be bold in declaring it. Sodomy leads to serious injury, incontinence, and life-threatening diseases. It also involves feces, which is why we're seeing so much of the new poop emoji in kids' movies and on our cell phones, emblazoned all over shirts. I'm going to skip this part right here. You're talking about the Teen Vogue article. No matter how progressive your church might be, no matter how guilty you might feel, because at some point in time in the distant past, Christians were homophobic, barring gay people from their churches, you cannot stand idly while a friend in Christ damages himself, risk his life, and the life of whomever he's sexually engaged with. Neither can you pretend that the simple act of being salt and light to the world is going to prevent our kids from accepting this as normal, with more and more of them engaging in it, causing irreversible physical and spiritual harm. Last paragraph. If gay people want uncritical spiritual affirmation, let them go to Tel Aviv, because if they enter what they assume to be a Christian church and don't encounter any loving pushback, the church they've entered aren't Christians. And besides, it would be strange to listen to a sermon week after week about how we're sinners and how we need to pray and stick to the narrow path and blah, blah, blah. But then we welcome them and tell them we're straight, or you welcome them and tell them they're straight, or you fail them
Tell
and
them
our kids. Say it again.
Welcome them and tell them straight. Just tell them the straight good.
Oh yeah. You're right. Okay.
Tell them
Okay. Christians. This is the last couple lines right here, and then we'll summarize here. Christians who ignore the sin of homosexuality aren't practicing forgiveness or understanding. They're condoning a physically and spiritually dangerous activity within their midst. No, Jesus was not lonely. He did not long, and we mortals do, for physical love for another. Why would he? He loved us in the name of tolerance and a distorted kind of forgiveness before, during, and after the fact. We're being asked to accept gay people on their terms instead of his. It's blasphemous, heretical, an abomination, as well as an abdication of the true love Jesus brought down to share with us. Of course, this explains why they're aiming for our king. And there's a couple more lines, but I think we've wrapped up your points there. So to summarize, before we start breaking things down, to summarize, number one, I just want to say personally that this is probably one of the most offensive, factually incorrect articles I've ever read, and I've read a lot. I have my pages down here where I'm going to go line by line and destroy almost all of your article. I'm just going to tell you that right now. I have spent the past 2 days tearing this thing down to its spare nuts and bolts. And when I say I'm going to break it down, I'm going to tear it to I'm going to tear the eyes from the dots from the eyes, just to give you a heads up. But so we're on the same page. You're saying that gay culture, the gay agenda, has permeated society such that we are Hollywood wasn't enough. Making things more familiar to people like us to be normalized isn't enough. We are now going to set our sights on the church, and we're going to take the characters in the Bible, such as Jesus, and we're going to turn Jesus gay and make it socially acceptable for Jesus to be gay, so that we can further permeate into society as a whole.
Yeah, that's what's happening, and I'm going to assume you don't agree with that. Maybe you don't think that's real, but if we would say for the moment, let's assume that's happening, what I described, I think you would say that's a bridge too far. Leave Jesus alone, in other words.
Well, I see. This is my first issue. Where are you getting that gay people want Jesus in the first place? Where is that coming from?
Well, I gave a few examples in the article, starting with Montefiore and then starting with a secular college. Where, as I say in the article, you might not be surprised that a secular college's professor teaching what is it, queer studies. That was one of the first ones he quoted. But then, then I say, well, here's.
I was just going to read it. It's called Queering God, Feminist and Queer Theology.
Yeah, and that's at a secular college. And so a lot of people would say, like you yourself might say, well, that's a secular college. There's a lot of out there stuff. But then we go to Dr. Tatyong Benny Liu, and he's teaching at Holy Cross. And he goes a step further than that. He says Jesus was probably a drag king. And then he contradicts himself and says Jesus, what might not even have been biologically male. So that's at a Christian college.
So your reason for thinking this is a very, very probably a thought experiment type class where they're just exploring an idea, and a crackpot at another college who thinks that Jesus was a drag queen. Those two things in your mind make it that we have our target on actually turning Jesus gay. Well, now you said we. I wouldn't include all gay people. I wouldn't include, for instance, a name everyone knows, Milo Yiannopoulos. I wouldn't include him as they. Not at all. No, yeah, there's radical elements doing it. Here's what you don't get to do though. You don't get to break them apart when you address this article to gay people. You didn't specify gay people in this. You just say gay people and homosexuals. So that means that anybody that is a homosexual is what who you're talking to here, because you don't specify that you're not talking to Milo in this article. So yeah, I am talking about all gay people. Why do you think that they want Jesus?
I don't think every gay person wants a gay Jesus. I don't think that at all. I think this is I don't think every gay person thinks a man can become a woman and vice versa. and that they should use the bathroom and change room and shower of their choice. I don't think all gay people agree with that at all.
Let me ask you
I
about
don't think
that.
there's a monolith.
The bathroom. Let me ask you about that. First of all, how many? Can you give me any numbers on the amount of attacks that have happened because of someone using the bathroom that they feel comfortable in, and a violent crime has occurred? Do you have any stats on that?
Well, I don't propose that that's happening. It could.
But
I'm not
sure, but I assume that's what your concern is, though, because you point that out.
No,
Three.
it is. I won't deny that. I would be worried as a father. My younger of my two daughters was going into the bathroom, and here in Texas, it's not a problem. But if I was in, I don't know, I guess North Carolina, I would agree with you, Kyle, that I would be worried if I thought there could be a man in there masquerading as a woman. But the issue is a cultural one. When have we ever done this? Well, let me ask you, why do we have men's and women's bathrooms? Why not just get rid of them then, like they did in Rome? They would just have latrines, and men and women would just sit down. And in parts of Europe, up until the 1950s, after World War II, that was still the case. They just had these large public latrines. They weren't male or female.
Because you don't, what you don't have is you don't have men going into the women's bathroom. Like you have to understand that when we say that somebody going to the bathroom that they feel comfortable as they identify, that is it may be a man's body, but that is a woman going into the woman's bathroom. You see that, right? They are a woman.
No, I disagree, and I would go further, Kyle. I'd say probably half of gay people don't agree either. A man can't become a woman, and vice versa. You can change things, just like you can you can make a car into a clone of a more expensive
two different
car,
things.
but it'll never be.
Yeah, you're talking the difference between
two different things.
Sex
and sex and gender.
Right.
Gender you can change absolutely.
That's a difference without a distinction. Your DNA.
Oh, no, there's a huge difference there. Of course, there's a distinction.
No,
you can't just say that's a difference. No, distinction. That's a vastly different things. That's just wrong.
No, your sex preferences could be different, but your sex is your gender.
I don't
your
think
gender is
No.
Well,
That's
then, yeah.
Look, I understand. Hold on. I understand that you're going to disagree because, listen, I need to tell you something.
Yeah.
You're gonna disagree because you are extremely bigoted and closed-minded. This article proves that.
No, because
hold on. See, this is what people who are closed-minded and bigoted do when they are confronted with that. They want to be louder and talk over when the person that's trying to help them. I'm in a calm manner. I'm not yelling, even though I am probably as livid as I've ever been on this show. Even reading it a second time, having to read it out in public makes it worse. But this is a bigoted, homophobic, hate-filled, factless article, and I'm trying my best to, as somebody who invited. Hold on. As somebody, hold on. Stop being closed-minded.
You can't say homophobic.
Stop.
You can't just
stop.
Run past
being Dave. Mute him. Look, we'll do this the hard way if we have to, but I promise you, I'm gonna win every time on this. So the best thing to do would be just to, when I tell you to hold on, because I'm gonna win. I promise. It's my show, so I'm gonna win. It's just in my favor that way. But I would like for you to leave this show not closed-minded. I would like for you to leave this show learning a little bit something and understanding that other people don't think like you do. Other people don't believe like you do. Other people don't have the same faith that you do. Other people don't love the same sex that you do. And this world is not made for you, or just the people that believe like you do. And that you're going to have to share this place with a lot of people. And it's best that you share it with an open mind and understanding that your opinion means next to nothing to them. But at least you can try to understand where they're coming from, because I guarantee you, you will see a brand new world if you just open your eyes a little bit and stop with the conservative, religious, discriminatory practices that have been going on and are out the window, by the way. Like, you do realize that you're on a lowering trend. I have the numbers right here. Even among evangelical Christians now, the amount of people who disapprove of homosexual relationships is 26%. Amongst your own.
I don't have my own. I don't know any more than you do or any other gay people. I think that's a problem
No,
when we try to
Christians.
put people in camp. Yeah.
Well, you are in a camp.
Yeah, fair enough.
You are in a camp. You are in a camp that
Now, let me ask you,
that follows Jesus.
Am I in a
That's a camp.
though? Yes.
Yes.
And am I in a homophobic camp? What did I say that was
Yes.
homophobic?
Okay. We'll
Really?
go back. Yeah, we'll go back. Okay. When you say that gay people should no more be encouraged to engage in homosexuality than a heterosexual might be encouraged to engage in an extramarital affair, 3 paragraphs above that, you make a distinction about how you would want to help somebody out of drug addiction. What you're doing is you're comparing somebody loving somebody of the same sex with a bad thing, a negative thing, even if it's just something like an extramarital affair or drugs. You're not comparing it to what it actually is, which is a beautiful thing between 2 people that it's no one else's business but those 2. So your negative connotations. What's that?
Do you think I hate people? Do you think I hate people who do drugs or people who have adulterous affairs?
No, I don't. I'm saying that your
comparison. Why do you think I hate gay people?
Your comparison.
You're comparing it to a negative thing already.
Right.
It's negative.
That is
negative. That's it.
Yes. That is bigoted. That's bigoted.
That's what bigot is. That's literally what being bigoted is.
Then Jesus was bigoted, right? I guess.
I don't know. I didn't know Jesus.
Some could argue that.
I don't have Jesus in front of me. I don't have Jesus in front of me. I have you in front of me.
A man and a woman.
And here we go. Here we go. Hold on. Okay, I'll tell you what. Here's what we'll do. We'll define, just so we have our definitions correct, we'll define what it means to be homophobic, one that we can all agree on, and we'll see if what you said in here doesn't mean that. Having or showing a dislike or prejudice against homosexual people. Would you say that you have, would you honestly say, as a Christian, because you can't lie, that you don't have any prejudices against homosexuals? None.
That definition, homophobic, like Islamophobic or arachnophobic, means you hate the gay person, or yes, to say
no, it does not mean hate. It means a bias against. It has nothing to do with hate. It means you have a bias against them. You're using a personal bias that is usually unsupported or unjustified, unwarranted, or unsubstantiated by any kind of rational means. That's what.
Right.
I hate to say words because words don't have meanings, but that's how it's usually inferred by anybody who's ever heard that word.
No.
Understands it to be that way.
Homophobic means hate.
Yes.
Homophobic means hate.
No,
and I don't hate gay people.
No, you're having an etymological fallacy.
Wait, then whoever was watching Super Bowl, whoever was watching Super Bowl and wasn't and was cheering for the team that lost, I guess they're New England Patriot phobic because they came in with a prejudice. They were cheering for the other team.
No.
I mean, we
do you know what Merriam-Webster is? Do you know Merriam-Webster? Do you trust the definitions that come from Merriam-Webster?
No.
Yeah, but I'll just accept right now that I have prejudices and you do, but I don't hate.
Sure.
I don't hate Muslims or gay people. I don't hate them.
I didn't hate is
word, did I?
Hate is something that hate is something that's going to vary from person to person. But the one thing that we all can, all of us can agree on is that this is a extremely homophobic article. I have reviewed people like Mike Winger, who did an entire sermon about the secular case against homosexuality, and he didn't get this. I didn't even read the most shocking thing, where you talk about, or you use words like, "Come on, let's get real. That's a butthole," and we're talking about poop. I mean, like,
that's Vogue magazine.
That's what?
Vogue magazine. I'm quoting Teen Vogue magazine that wrote an article encouraging girls to have anal sex.
What do you mean you're quoting them?
I guess that's, well, that's whatever you just said is a quote. I didn't say that. I'm quoting Teen Vogue that said what you just said about anal sex, about sodomy.
This is hold on. Let me find it. This is nowhere near where you say that's come on, that's a butthole. That's nowhere near the Teen Teen Vogue article. The Teen Vogue article talks about the poop thing.
Yeah.
I mean, this is a just to be completely honest with you, this is a terrible. This is nothing to be
that. I'm not
to be proud of.
I'm not pulling that up, Kyle. Yeah, I get it. You guys don't like it, but that I didn't say that.
Dislike. I'm not factually incorrect. Pop up. You have to realize
what?
Well, hang on.
I'm going to find it for you.
Like this is that it's not just a bias. We all have biases. It is an irrational bias. It is not justified. Can I finish? It is not justified by things. Yeah. So if I'm homophobic, I could actually love gay people, but you don't be homophobic because I have irrationality towards them. I can think I don't want to hire this gay person because reasons. That is bigotry.
Oh wait,
even though I hate them.
I would hire gay people. I would make a cake for a gay wedding.
Not just hear what I said though. It doesn't matter if you hire them or not. I'm giving you an example of what it would be to be bigoted.
Sorry?
I'm giving you an example. I didn't say you would or would not hire them. I'm giving you an example.
Well, that's what we're
a concrete example of what would be the case.
I mentioned in the article
it would be the case. Can I finish a sentence? I would like to be able to finish a sentence. It would be nice. It is an example of if you are in a situation, you don't have to hate gay people to be a bigot. You can just have an irrational bias against them. Does that make sense to you?
And so when I say I would hire a gay person, that doesn't.
I'm not asking you about your bias. I'm asking does that make sense to you? That somebody cannot hate gay people but still have an irrational bias against them. We call that bigotry.
I got you, Steve. I would say if someone says they don't hate gay people, but they wouldn't hire them or rent them an apartment, then they probably do hate them and they don't realize.
Not necessarily. No, that doesn't follow.
Well, you're
using hate in a very bizarre way.
Or the expression. Sorry.
It's a bias. It's not necessarily a hatred. Hatred is an emotional state.
Yeah, we all have biases. Biases are not hatred.
Yes, but biases can be rational or irrational. We're talking about an irrational bias, which I've said 6 or 7 times by now.
I disagree. Yeah, but it doesn't matter. You disagree. I don't think it's irrational.
You can disagree all you like, but you're just fundamentally wrong.
That's what I found. And it is indeed Teen Vogue. It's Teen Vogue that I'm quoting. And they say, you are entering a butthole in their article, encouraging anal sex for teen girls. They're talking about that there's going to be some fecal matter. Mm-hmm. And yes, I'm opposed to that. I am opposed.
Yes.
I don't think that's healthy. I don't think that's healthy for anyone, but especially a teen. And I'm opposed to that, and I'm biased against it. And I have a prejudice against it to go and try it for myself and see how it is. I'm just not going to do it because I'm prejudiced against it, but it's not because I hate people that do it.
Okay, let me ask you this: where is your prejudice towards it come from?
Well, the prejudice in this article is that it has no place in the church. All sorts of things go on in the church, but we don't celebrate them.
Okay, let's
And
talk
they're not
about
done
let's talk about what's done in your church. You have a lot more issues than homosexuality. You have people who are supposed to be the people who lead your churches touching children at an alarming rate. Why didn't you focus on that? In other words, before you look out into another community like the gay community to try to write stuff like this, why don't you look within your own organization and try to fix that first? That seems like that would be step one.
Well, I could write 100 articles I have written. I'll probably write 100 more. Maybe I'll get to that. By the way, we talked about that last time. I forget how it came up. But yeah, there's pedophilia in the church, and by the way, the Catholic Church gets blamed for that, but it's the Anglican Church and all sorts of, basically any church that's running orphanages and such. There are people who make their way in there and they rise in the ranks. God only knows how, and they take advantage of people, and it's not only gay, but as you know, a lot of the young women coming up on these immigrant marches, a lot of them are raped along the way, and they're raped by men. I mean, it's not a gay issue, and yeah, that's sometimes happening under the auspices of Christianity. That's horrible. I would say though.
Let me ask you this before you jump to something else, because we've talked about 6 things now. Were you not advocating the position that in the Catholic Church that the pedo priests that were molesting children were not necessarily culpable because this was some kind of consensual act between two people? You're not advocating that once?
Yeah. No. There have been cases where priests and bishops and cardinals have been caught and been accused of pedophilia, but their gay partner was an adult. And it's just because.
Okay, but what about the children? What about the children? Is it consensual?
Yeah, there are such cases.
Okay, so I really want to get this on record. You're advocating the position that there are sexual misconduct in the Catholic Church between priests and children that is consensual. Yeah. You're out of your mind.
No, it can't be consensual. Yeah, it can't be consensual.
That's what you just said. If you think it's consensual.
No.
I think he misunderstood you.
No.
Okay, I want to make sure that you get it right. I don't want to misquote you.
Some of the cases. So the scandal with the Christian Church, and you keep saying Catholic Church, and by the way, it's the Protestants too. I'm not Catholic.
Okay, fine. Church in general. Okay, fair enough.
Okay. So I would be happy.
That's not the issue. The issue is the issue is that you have a bigger problem in your own community than to. Are you not a Christian?
Yes.
So that is I would consider that.
Well, we have alcoholics in our church and drug users. There are AA meetings in our church for people, and I know there's people that they fall in and then they fall out of Alcoholics Anonymous, and they still come to our church, but they're alcoholics.
I'm not seeing the analogy. So what?
That's my point too, but it's not.
Wait, what are you comparing to alcoholism? Homosexuality or pedophilia? I don't know what your comparison is.
Pedophilia.
So pedophilia is similar to alcoholism.
Yeah, it's an addiction. And there are all sorts of addictions in my church. And you're right, maybe I'll write about them. That's not what this article is about. And by the way, on the issue, what you misunderstood, Steve, is that the scandal of sex in the church, of pedophile sex, that's really now it's receded into the past, and the media is looking for examples they can't find. So there have been cases where
are you not reading the news? Are you not paying attention? These are active, ongoing investigations in Pennsylvania, Ohio, California, New York. These are all active
You're literally
dioceses.
spewing. You're literally spewing bullshit.
Mhm.
Like literally, you're there's like no filter. It's not. You're not stopping. You have to
Oh,
stop
I'm
yourself
sorry.
from saying that.
I don't
It
know what
is
you're
not
talking about.
receding into the past. It's
Okay, fine. Listen, you guys want to deal with pedophilia? I'll tell you where to go. You go to Washington, D.C., okay? That's where you go. And you'll find 99% of the pedophiles are in Washington, okay? And you're
yeah,
right.
but no,
I
no,
don't
no, no, no,
defend,
no, no,
I
no,
don't
no,
defend
no, 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 no,
pedophiles.
no, 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 no. Dave, mute him for a second. You need to understand something. I am not writing an article against heterosexuals for wanting to love who they love. If I was doing that, then you could tell me to go to Washington. I am minding my own business, living my life. You're the one sticking your nose into communities that it has no business because you are not a member of the LGBTQ community. Therefore, none of that concerns you. The only reason that you're writing this is because you feel like you have some sort of higher higher calling from some invisible man in the sky that has said, I don't like this guy and this guy liking each other. Well, let me ask you this. In that same book where it says that, it also says that you're not allowed to eat shrimp or wear things with mixed linen. Have you done either of those? Is what you're wearing right now all of the same material?
All of the laws of the Old
Oh,
Testament
yeah.
were fulfilled.
Oh,
We're
oh.
excused from, we eat pork. We're excused from all that.
Then I'm excused from being homosexual. If you can pick which laws that you want to be excused
Jesus,
from, so can I.
Jesus, except Jesus kept that one. But can I ask you guys, how did we get
Oh,
on to
wait, no.
pedophilia?
Hold on. No. Jesus kept that one?
I don't discuss that. Yes,
Jesus
Jesus said
kept that one?
marriage is between a man. Yeah, Jesus said marriage is between a man and a woman. So
That
he
has
got rid
nothing
of
to
the
do with
dietary law.
that has nothing to marriage is a social construct. That has nothing to do with a man and a man loving each other. Absolutely zip nada
Well,
bullshit.
Kyle,
So where did Jesus not stop? Where did Jesus keep that law? Where did he say, "Oh, all those other
Kyle,
laws, I've gotten rid of them"? Stop saying my name and answer the
yes.
question. Where did he get rid of that law?
Well, then you don't support gay marriage?
Do you understand English? I asked you a
What?
question. It has
Do
nothing
you
to do with that.
support gay marriage?
What?
Yes or no? Well, Jesus said marriage is between a man and a woman. So I guess you're
Okay,
right. He
good
didn't
for
say
Jesus. Listen to me. God, listen. Good
Isn't
for
that what we're
Jesus that
talking
he
about?
said, good for Jesus that he said marriage is between a man and a woman. I'm not talking about marriage unless you think that the only aspect to homosexual relationships is getting married. Because if that's your only idea of what it means to be a
No.
homosexual, I have news for you. There is so much more. Okay? And I'm talking about the much
Yep.
more part. I'm talking about the loving each other. God's governments, all of that cannot put a social construct around love. That is between two people. Marriage is a government and a social construct. Okay, I'm talking about the two people loving each other. Okay,
Well,
you don't
then
need a
why do
government
gay people
to
want
condone
to
that.
get married? Why do
Why did
gay
what?
people want to get married then? Why
Because
do
they want
gay
the
people
tax
want?
benefits. The tax benefits.
Among many, many other things too. There's medical reasons too. I mean, people on their deathbed
Sure,
have
yes, medical
Oh, you can
reasons.
take care of
there's a
I'm
whole bunch of
I'm giving
reasons.
him
you can take
I'm
care of
giving
all.
him one example. I'm giving
Yeah,
him one
yeah.
example.
I mean,
The point is,
Yeah.
you're not answering.
Okay,
Listen, you're not answering my question
gay
because
marriage
you
for
can't
yourself.
answer my question. Not stop. You're not answering my question because you can't answer my question. I'm going to ask you one more time. I'm going to give you one
Go
more
ahead.
chance to tell me where Jesus
Yes.
got rid of those laws but kept the gay law. Can you do that?
Well, all the dietary laws are gone, along with circumcision. But Jesus
Right.
said marriage remains between a man and a woman.
Oh, for fuck's
I-
sake. You're dumber than
why
George
did he-
Lujack. You are
why did he
stupider than
keep
George
that one and got rid of the other ones? As he's asking you, where,
I don't know.
what's the
I
reason
don't
for
know.
that? And by the way, and
I don't know.
he's right about the whole social contract thing. So look at if I want to marry somebody and we want to have all the benefits of marriage, and I happen to be in love with a female because I'm not gay.
And I'll bake
Why
your
is that any
cake.
different
Don't
between?
forget that.
Let me.
I'll
Why
hire
is it any
you and
different?
bake your cake.
Why is it any different for a homosexual couple that have the same amount of love right? Because love is love. It doesn't matter whether it's being a man or woman, or two men or two women. Love is love. So, well, okay, there's different types of platonic love, but the romantic love's the same thing. So why do not they have the same benefits and rights and entitlements to those types of social things as a heterosexual couple? Why not? What's the reason? Give me a differentiation.
I can take care of that very easily. You guys will be happy to hear.
Please?
I don't think the government should have anything to do with marriage. It is like Kyle said. It's a, what did you say, Kyle? It's a social contract. It's not a political or a legal issue. A couple, as far as I'm concerned, by the way, a couple is married as soon as they have sex. And if you have one night stands, then you're committing adultery as well as fornication.
Are you fucking with us? Like, serious question. Like, is this like an act?
We reached flat Earth territory. Okay, great.
No, seriously. Like, no. Listen, Misha,
you're not
you can't.
Supposed to have multiple
you can't
sexual partners. Don't you guys agree with that?
The fuck I can't.
Let's go step by step. Let's go step by step. Okay. Hold on. We got to stay on track here. And look, I don't want to mute you, but I will, because I'm getting frustrated. Okay. I want to make sure that we're on the same page here. Do you understand that a homosexual relationship is not two people being married? It is two people that are in love or are engaging in some sort of sexual activity.
Kyle, yeah, I think if you have sex, you're married. Period.
You're an idiot. I don't know what to tell you.
I just agreed.
No, you didn't agree with me. No, you didn't.
Yeah.
No, you did not.
Two gay men have sex. They're married. They're married, and the state has no business in it. We agree on that. We agree.
Dave, say goodbye. No I've had enough.
No tax benefit to being married.
Get the fuck out.
That's like the dumbest thing I've ever heard in my life. That might be dumber than flat Earth in some regards.
I have to apologize to Brett King. Brett King is literally not the biggest moron I've ever met. That was I'm so angry right now. I am so angry right now. I need a minute. You can
make that even an argument.
You can talk to the people. I need a minute to.
I don't even know if I got anything to say. It was kind of self-evident. I mean, you have a person that's advocating the position that you are somehow okay. He'll acknowledge that marriage is a social construct, which I do agree, and then say, "Oh, but if you have sex with somebody, you are married." No, what world and what metric and what standards does that apply, and why would it, by any stretch of the imagination? Why would you imply that you have the same ability? If I have a one night stand to somebody and we're married now, if I get in an accident that night, do I want that person have the responsibility to pull me off life support because they know me so well after one night stand? Fuck no.
It frightens me, honestly, like no joke. It frightens me to my like inner core that there are people like him that are out there alone making decisions without any type of supervision. Like he could not put together that having sex does not equal marriage. Gay people, two guys, me and somebody else together, does not mean that we're instantly married just because we're gay and we want to default to the marriage thing. Jesus got rid of all the other laws, but he kept this one. And the reason that he kept this one, his excuse was because he said that marriage is between a man and a woman. That goes nowhere to answering, well, what did he say about gay people? Okay, fine. Let's say that Jesus did say marriage was between a man and a woman. Okay, well, what if in that same room Jesus was like, okay, Trisha and John, bless you on your wedding. Go get married. Bobby and Kent, you don't want to get married anyway. You know what I mean? I'm doing you guys a favor. It makes zero sense what he was trying to advocate for. That man wrote a homophobic article. It is full of misinformation, language to scare people, the same narrative that these archaic Christians put out. And it's about fucking time that we tell them exactly what they are. They are a group of uneducated, bigoted, homophobic, morons, and their time's up, and their world and their hold on things and how it used to be isn't there anymore. It's gone. Get a grip. Learn to be active in society and engage with people who are different than you. Because although you may have had your grip on society and had it the way you wanted it, where it was a white man and a white woman and a black man and a black woman here, and there was no mixing of the yolks, because remember, God was against that too. That grip has been taken off now. People have had enough. They've had enough. And you may be a loud group, and you may still have, some numbers, but you're dwindling. And eventually, you're going to need the people around you that you shunned and called abominations and said that weren't good enough. So get a fucking grip and come to reality, because it's not going to end well for you guys if that's not the case.
Yeah, I mean, people back when would use the same excuse about, oh, well, why would a white person and a black person get married? I mean, again, love and these things it's ubiquitous. It doesn't matter what your genders are. And by the way, the fact that he didn't even understand the difference between gender and race, and we all have our own positions on that, but at least we understand the differences. I've never heard anybody in any rational, competent way argue that race and gender are synonymous and interchangeable terms unless you have a second grade education. I mean, somebody would have to go back to literally kindergarten where you're just learning the basics. And so maybe he's just not a very well-educated individual, and he's just going by what he's learned strictly from his senior year, which was probably the third grade, and what he's learned in Christian Bible school.
He's not.
Seems to be the case.
I mean, either that, or he said, he said at the beginning he was a bad addict, unless he, used himself and to where he doesn't have any mental, faculties anymore. But like that mindset, it's one thing. I almost have a little bit more of a respect for somebody that's homophobic and owns the fact that they're homophobic. You know what I mean? Like somebody that writes an article and says, yeah, that's how I feel, take it or leave it. I can almost respect that. But what I can't respect and what I will not entertain or allow to laugh like some complete moron in my face after I had to read that grotesque article is somebody that can say those things and then deny that they are homophobic. And then when they are read a definition of what homophobic means and they see, oh, wow, this is making me look really homophobic, they then deny that definition of homophobic. That is the level of thinking that these people do. They will take reality, and when you go to their reality and you show them reality, they will jump into another reality, and they will keep making you bounce and bounce and bounce and bounce until you're in some kind of dream world that doesn't make sense. Well, no, that is the definition of homophobic. This article is homophobic. It's junk. It's the worst thing I've ever read. And if I didn't love this iPad more than anything in the world, I would have smashed this over this desk and walked the fuck away. But I love you guys too much to.
It's the same mindset of the person saying, well, I love you and I love gay people, but God has to send you to hell because reasons. It's the same idiotic, completely back-assward mentality that if somebody thinks that's what a loving God is what would entail, a benevolent being, then even as an agnostic, I would reject that type of being. It just makes no sense to me. That is absolutely nonsensical. It's irrational. I reject that type of narrative. I've never been a believer in a literal hell, like hellfire. And I certainly wouldn't believe any deity that's going to create the entire universe and the spectacular universe that we live in, but say, yeah, you know what? You're gay. You're fucked for eternity.
Now, let me be fair to him and to illustrate a point. I don't think that he is the type of homophobic person or somebody that would go out and actively discriminate against people who are gay. I think at his core, he is because before the show we were very friendly. Steve, you can back me up on this. I even told him that I was going to probably get a little heated during this, just to fair warning, but we were very cordial during the beginning of it. I think that if it weren't for his religion, he would be completely accepting of gay people. I believe that. I don't think that there's anything within him that isn't to blame for the religion. So this is what you have to understand, the people out there who are theists and who actively try to follow what the Bible says. That book is the only thing within you that is driving an active need to try to ruin other people's lives. Because make no mistake about it, that's exactly what you're doing. When you try to legislate who they can or cannot marry, when you try to, when you call them things like abomination, or when you make them feel like it's wrong in any capacity to be anything than who they are. All right. Number one, you are a horrible person, and you need to know that. Number two, you are being led by an archaic book of 2,000 years that got most science in it wrong. There's so many errors in that book. It's so crazy. You ignore the things like the dietary laws. You ignore the mixed linen laws, but you, for some reason, have to pay attention to this homosexuality law. And I know that if it weren't for that book, you wouldn't feel that way. So are you going to let really a book allow you to have a false sense of entitlement to go around and tell other people how they should live, or who they should love, or what they should do with their lives? You should be ashamed of yourself, all of you. Like, you should not be able to look yourself in the mirror, is the way that I look at it. You need to really evaluate your life. If that's you, if you are one of those people. Now, if you just genuinely don't like it, that's a different story. But if you're allowing a book to dictate how you're going to ruin other people's lives, or how you're going to interfere in other people's lives, you are a shitty person, and karma's a bitch.
Yeah, there's the passive type and the active type. He's not an active type, right? He's not going to be out there on the street bashing, gays and doing stuff like that. But he's passive about it. It's also passive aggressive type nature. And you're right. I think it does stem from his belief in a very specific reading of a book. And if he didn't have that, if he was never exposed to that, then I think I would agree with you. He seems like a decent enough guy where he wouldn't have those types of things. And hopefully people will leave those types of narratives. I've seen it happen. I know people that were pieces of shit that are no longer pieces of shit because they got rid of the negativity that was instilled upon them from childhood, that certain groups of people are lesser because of what they love or what they believe. That narrative is promoted in some churches. There's no question about it.
On the flip side of that, there are people like I know SJ. I've had many conversations with SJ Thompson. She is completely fine with gay people and being who they want to be. And to those, I'm not talking to you. If you can believe in,
not talking to you either. Yeah.
Yeah, no, definitely not sinful apologetics. No,
we love
I'm talking to the ones that use the book to actively go out and try to discriminate against other people. People like SJ, like she, as annoying as she may be to some of you people, that's the one thing she doesn't do. And if that's you, I'm not talking to you. If you want to believe in a God and practice the good stuff out of the Bible, then you're not hurting anybody. I don't have any ill will towards you. My ill will is towards people who use religion to step on other people's freedoms, or to try to make them be anything other than who they were born to be. That's that simple.
Yeah, I think people will know the differentiation. I mean, obviously, we're not talking about specific people, Sygart and General Han Solo and those people. No, but there are people we see. No. Yeah, I mean, but you can't ignore the people out there like Matt Towell or whatever the hell you call him. You can't ignore that.
Yeah,
you just can't. No, they exist. You can't ignore the Steven Andersons of the world.
Now
they
look,
do exist, and they use the same book. Sorry, they use the same book.
Yeah,
they really do.
That's what I was getting ready to say. Now, what I cannot try to defend or separate out is the fact that you all operate from the same book. Now, that's between you guys. Mm-hmm. That's between that's a Christian thing. But no, I am mainly going after the shitty garbage humans that use a book to try to tell other people what they can and can't do. That's my distinction.
Yeah, and I think that's the way most people should be, regardless of your belief system, regardless of what you want to label yourself. I think that's something that's kind of ubiquitous in our community, and theists alike. The theists, I know a lot of theists that don't like that type of narrative because it makes them look bad. So they're just as actively on board with stopping that kind of crap as we would be. It's just making them look silly, and they recognize it. Have these conversations with them. Are you snoring, Dave?
Who's snoring?
Is that Dave? I think Dave fell asleep.
What the?
Okay. Okay. I, I really thought you
What
were
was
snoring.
that?
I was like, did he pass out? Okay. Interesting.
Oh man.
Sorry we're boring you, Dave.
um,
That would have been funny.
I was going to say, how could anybody be sleeping right now?
No, that was
I'm about to have
awesome.
it.
I
I'm
mean,
about to have an aneurysm.
it didn't go the way I
Um,
expected. I knew you were going to get a little upset because you did say that at the very beginning before we went on air, but I had no idea what that. I didn't know anything about that extreme points of view he had. And by the way, I was messaged by somebody that he did make the argument that the underage children and the adult in the Catholic Church specifically. Now he is right. These are Anglican. What is it? The other group, not the evangelist, but the Anglican. It happens there too, and in Protestant, it happens all over the place. But he did make the argument that if it was consensual, then oh well, kind of thing. Well, wait a minute. Then he just said, well, it can't be consensual. Make up your mind, because people are telling me that you did say that it was consensual. Therefore, there really was no issue with that, which is
I think
ridiculous.
I think he may have said the consensual, but I don't think he. I think he was thinking about the homosexual consensual relationship, not a an adult and child thing, because that I can say was an honest, like,
it's hard to
he
give
didn't
people
mean
the
it that
benefit of the
way.
doubt, though. Yeah, and I agree with you. I like the principle of charity, but when people are like that, it's very difficult for me to give them principle of charity because of the other things they have said. However, I will probably say on this one you might be right, but I didn't read what he wrote about this other places. Other people have. I know Bo says something about it. John Peterson has something about it. So maybe they might have a screenshot of what he actually said to be a comparative. We can do a comparator on that, maybe. But
Maybe. We're probably going to close out here in a few minutes. I'll give you guys time to ask any questions if you have any questions. I will wrap this up by saying with Misha Papa, don't send me any more articles. I won't be having you on here anymore. I hope that you can take a step back and look at your article again, and sort of the passionate things that I said. I know I got heated, and sometimes it's easy to dismiss what people say when they're angry and yelling because it just gets lost in the chaos. But if you go back and really pay attention to some of the things I said, I hope that you come away with a different outlook. The things that you say have effects on people. That is an everyday occurrence, and it's just for me personally, it's extremely disrespectful. I feel that you send me this article a week ago, and you say, "Want to know your thoughts on this? Can't wait to hear back from you." And I give you the chance to come on here, and you don't even not acknowledge that you've said anything wrong. You're dumbfounded that anything in this article is offensive or outrageous. And I just think that you need to do a little bit more self reflection on some of the things that you're writing, because this was just a horrible piece. It was factually incorrect. It was homophobic, and you just need to you need to do better, not only for yourself but for society, because society deserves better. And like I said, you are the minority. Your thoughts are the minority, and we are getting tired of having your holy book push us around, and it's just not going to happen anymore. It's just
and
over.
if he would have stuck with a couple of key points, I probably would have been on his side for a few things. Like, I think that, talking about sexual things in kindergarten is you don't need to bring it to their attention that early.
Sure.
So things like that, yes, and I would stand by him on that. I don't want my daughter reading about those things in kindergarten. It's just not necessary. Way to appropriate age. We all had the talk. What was it? 5th grade. Boys get separated and the girls get separated. And you watch a movie from 1950. That okay. So that's one thing. But yeah, if that was his narrative, okay, I would have been kind of on board with that. And that's more of a pedagogical type thing. That would have been something along the lines of how do we teach these things effectively? Because there's a lot of emotional things involved in this, and kids, they start getting active young, and they don't have the emotional ability to understand what's really going on, right? So it's a very difficult topic to approach for them. But his narrative was just bizarre from the get-go. That I think that he had fundamental misunderstandings, and these fundamental misunderstandings either A, come from not having a proper education, or B, being indoctrinated by a misinformation campaign from whatever church that he was in. I really don't see any other options, or a combination of both. And that unfortunately carries over into adulthood, and it makes them go, I don't know what you're talking about, Kyle. I don't know why you think it's offensive. I don't see it. It's just they don't. They may not actually see it. I don't think he's lying about that. I really don't think that he's aware enough to understand the huge amount of problems in what he wrote.
The before I get to super chats, I want to say this: the reason that I get so angry and I'm so triggered by this is because Christians will do another thing too. It's just a really shitty tactic, but they like to get up like he does in this article and state statistics on things like substance abuse and alcoholism. The reason, probably 99% of the reason those things exist like they do, to the numbers that they do in the gay community, is because of shit like this. It's because of people that use words like abomination, that use words like not unnatural, harmful, sinful. That's what drives people to things like drugs and alcohol. I was one of them. I was a victim of it. Sent me to prison for a year. Do you think I would have? I know there's no way to know, but it is less likely that I would have wound up there if I felt like leaving a Christian, entire Christian family would have just been, oh yeah, awesome, Kyle, you're gay. That's great. Come on over. God will be fine with it. No, it's less likely that that would have happened to me. But we turn to those things because it gives us an out. It gives us an escape. It takes away the feeling of having to worry about what people are going to think about you, or worry if you're going to have this person in your life. That's not a good feeling. And if you've never had to go through that, I'm envious. Because I promise you never want to feel that way. You never want to have people in your life that have been there since day one, every day, and have to question if, because you don't think or feel or love how they do, or how they think you should, that would be worth them being out of your life forever. That's a huge thing. That's a huge deal. So I get angry because there are people who are actively dealing with this now, probably some watching that haven't come out yet, that are scared to come out. And as long as assholes like this are allowed to, or assholes like this think it's okay, that there's nothing wrong with saying things like this, then you can bet your ass I will be here bitch slapping them around until they get it through their thick skulls that that is no longer okay. Treat people with respect and love. You only get one of these lives. Sorry, Christian, spoiler alert. You're only here once. You might as well spend it happy and not fighting, no matter what side you're on, either fighting for your rights or fighting against someone else's, because you can do much better things with your time and you'll be happier yourself. Just worry about yourself and let other people live their life and be happy. Okay.
Yeah, they don't seem like very happy people, do they? I mean, have you noticed there's
No,
kind
they're
of a
miserable.
thread? Yeah, there's something that's common to all of them. They all seem like very miserable people, and they want to make other people miserable as well. All of them, everyone I've seen, they all have that one characteristic.
Yeah. It's very telling, you know. It's very there's nothing more miserable than somebody that's constantly worried about what you're you know what I mean. You could have a glass house that literally has no window panes left, and he's going to be standing at the broken window pane with binoculars going, your shutters are crooked, fix your shutters. You know what I mean? It's so fucking stupid.
Well, and probably they might have the same. They might have proclivities of their own. Somebody had mentioned in the live chat that they would love to see Steven Anderson get busted, like having a homosexual affair. Yeah, that would be brilliant. But it happens all the time with other people, and you know what? It gets kind of slid under the rug. So even if
yes,
he,
it's fine.
even if, yeah, it's just like, oh, okay, another case of it. A lot of times
Fine.
it is something along those lines too.
Like I said, our solace is that the country as a whole isn't putting up with that bullshit anymore, and that grip has been loosened and cast away, and gays, lesbians, transgenders, bisexual people, queer people are here. They're fabulous, and get the fuck over it, bitches. All right, Harry Dunn. Jesus loved his brothers. The question is, how much? Am I right? You're right. Kent Hovind, CPA. Dude dreams about wieners. All homophobes do. That's that is accurate as well. Mr. Meat Lover 666. Heidi Ho, Jesus. AC Castillo says, Kyle, how come this guy got so under your skin? I'll let you figure that out, AC Castillo. Maybe you can rewind just a little bit and figure that out. Kent Hovind, CPA again. Dude's too stupid to know he's a bigot. Yeah. Kent Hovind, CPA again. He must have really liked this this episode.
He give us more than $1 because if he gives us $2, he loves it.
Dude suffers from he's giving $2 each time. We're at 6 now.
Man,
so
he really liked this one. Holy shit.
Yeah. Dude suffers from fecal philia. Mr. Meat Lover 666 says, every time Misha speaks, I get a facepalm injury. Oh, amen.
It was painful.
My brain literally, I literally can't feel my head right here. It's the weirdest sensation. Like,
and he kept avoiding your questions. They weren't difficult questions.
He broke right here.
I think that you have a point though. When people really go out of their way to avoid those kinds of questions, they don't have an answer. His brain shuts down. You don't have an answer, so you have to like gish gallop to something else that's unrelated.
Well, you know why? Because the questions I was asking, the book doesn't have an answer for that. Oh no, .exe can't compute.
Division by 0.
Whatever. 0132132. That man must have secretly fathered G-Man. You should have asked him his thoughts on cat ownership versus human ownership. Well put. Actually, I'm gonna go so far as to say that I don't think G-Man is as dumb as Misha. I think I've never seen that level of stupid. Honestly, never.
I would like. Too bad I don't talk to G-Man anymore because I would have liked to ask him what he thought about that. I would have actually. I hate to say it, but I would have liked to seen his opinion on that.
On what?
I know how weird that sounds. On what Misha said, I would like to have gotten G-Man's take on it, and I cannot believe that I'm saying that. Please forgive me. Lord help me. But I really want to know if G-Man would agree with
he's going live now. He's going live now.
G-Man.
Mr. Meat Lover 666 says, does that mean I'm married to my right hand? Been there, brother. Commit and keep the keep fighting the fight. Johnny V says things are getting better and they will continue to get better. Yes, that is true. Johnny V, keep fighting the good fight and change the world. Yeah, well, that's everybody's got their little battle to everybody's got their battle to fight. That's Cal is living too much in the moment. What does that mean? Godless fighter jet. What moment am I living in? I'm waiting to hear what he says. Steve, you have any? Do you want to talk about what happened with today before we leave?
What on my channel or?
Yeah, end on a different note.
I didn't know. Did you watch it this morning?
No, I hadn't watched it yet, but I saw that you put it up there, so I assume there must be a story on why.
Well, no, it's just somebody had sent me something along the lines of, there's this narrative out there that if you're not a theist, you have to be an atheist. Now, I made a logical argument using existential quantification and propositional logic or predicate logic, first order logic, that is not necessarily a true statement. That is a false proposition. Because there are, as we know, other schema out there, especially in philosophy, that makes that statement false. And so if somebody says you have to be one or the other, it's just a false statement. And Matt Dillahunty on the atheist experience, I guess, reiterated that approach. And somebody pointed it out to me and they wanted me to address it. And I did. I wrote a blog on it and I had a video on it when I was speaking of this. Now, if somebody would qualify that with, in the schema that we use, with the definitions that we use, you're a theist or an atheist, I have no issue with that. That is a true statement. But they don't do that. And then so by not doing that, they're not telling people that schema does not have to be something that be held to. There are other schemas out there. And I think it's a little bit of a liable mission in that regard, because it's for a political agenda. It's to basically get as many people under the umbrella term atheist as possible. And they don't want people to be aware there's other much more formal schema where that statement or that proposition doesn't hold. So anyways, I had to hang out this morning, and it's funny, all the comments on it pretty much that are left, which are pretty few, all of them are straw mans. It's they're basically arguing what's called semantics rather than logic. And it's like, semantics deal with meanings. I'm dealing with the logic is wrong. The proposition is false. There's no way you can really argue otherwise, I don't think. And I haven't had anybody try in any kind of logical way. For one person, I think it tried, but everybody in the hangout agreed. 100 some odd people seem to be agreeing. But if people want to ask me about it or talk to me about it, message me. But I don't want to get into, this definitional thing. We recognize there's different definitions to words. My argument is contingent upon there being polysemous words out there. And so when you make these general statements, it's a fallacy of it's a I'm trying to think of the fallacy that is called ambiguity, fallacy of ambiguity. And so you can't make sweeping statements like that. If you're not a theist, you must be an atheist. You have to qualify that with specificity. You have to say, if you're not a theist, you're an atheist in the senso lato or in the colloquial way that we're using these words. And they don't do that. And people have a misconception because they say there's no other options, period. There's no possible ontological way. And that's just false. So I had a really good hangout explaining the ontology and the epistemology. If you guys want to go check it out, it's on my channel. I thought it was really, really good. So
when can we expect the showdown?
Well, somebody actually messaged Matt during the show, actually, and I got an email from Matt and this other guy because they had asked him, "Oh, I'll moderate this," and I'm like, "No, I'm not interested." And Matt Dillon said, "Well, I'm not interested in this." We both said, "No, thank you." He wants to come on here and we'll talk. I'm fine with that. I'm not going to call on the atheist experience. I have no reason to. It's a too heavily moderated thing. I'd rather have an off-air conversation with him than anything else, because I want him to understand these things, even though other people have told him the exact same thing. I'm not the first person to have said these things to him. And he's a very smart guy. I happen to like Matt, and I think that he's brilliant on what he does. And I watch the atheist experience. I think that he has blind spots. But unlike most people, I've seen him change his position given enough evidence. He did with rationality rules and a few other things. Like he will say that agnostic atheism in the weak case is nonsensical. And I appreciate that. I actually asked him that off air. And I think Kyle was here at the time. I don't know if he stepped away. But it was nice to have him agree with that, right? Because I wanted to not misrepresent him. I'm like, okay, Matt, do you agree that agnostic atheism in the weak case is a nonsensical statement in epistemology? He's like, yes. And he's
high as shit
the
that
video
night.
out there. You were high. Yeah. Well, this was back when you were still smoking. But he has actually made that same argument to Anthony Magnabosco, saying, even though it's on Iron Chariots, he no longer holds that agnostic atheism is a sensical position. So, I think he will change his positions. I think this is just one blind spot that he has because he's on the member of the boards for American Atheist, and American Atheist by David Silverman has an agenda to push this narrative: if you're not theist, you're an atheist, and there's no other way possible. And that's just fundamentally wrong. Everybody who knows anything about the topic has explained to David Silverman that he's wrong over the years, but they still push it. It's a political thing, and I find that to be dogmatic and I don't do dogma. I don't do ideological things. I think that that's the same mindset that a creationist has or a flat earther has. If you're going to place dogma over facts, reality, logic, reason, then what are you trying to accomplish then? At what goal? So,
well,
but yeah, I'll talk
I think
to him
that
about it.
will.
I'll talk to him anytime. Sure.
Yeah,
Good.
I think it's a good idea. I think we should do it. Yes, I did finally. I did quit. I had to give it up. I was getting too baked. When you start feeling like you're becoming one with the couch at one point,
That's the sweet spot, isn't it?
literally couldn't tell where my body ended and the couch began. At that point, I was like, "Yep, this is enough." Although I am seriously thinking about calling my homie right now and being like, I need something right now. I'm fighting every urge
I
that I
know.
can.
I picked a bad time to quit smoking, and that was 3.5 years ago. But God, I
Yeah,
could go for a
okay.
cigarette right now, right?
Well, so we'll be back tomorrow with Opinionated. And TJ Kirk, the amazing atheist, will be joining us. So at least I know I will be speaking with someone that I can have a conversation with without worrying about getting triggered. So I look forward to that. Then on Wednesday, we will be talking about an ancient culture in the Lost Exodus with Bruce and Jeff Holiday. On Monday, keep in mind, everyone, Monday, we will be joined by Jesse Lee Peterson. We'll find out why I am a soy-filled girly man, why religion is declining, and why he's just amazing. Until
That's
then,
amazing.
remember, just keep this in mind, everybody. I've spoke a lot to the Christians. Now I'm going to talk to the people that the other people, the people who are just trying to be who they are, because I've been there. I still remember the day like it was yesterday when I was able to stop caring what other people think of me and start actually living for me. It took a long time to get there, and it is not easy. It's not easy at all. In fact, it was probably the hardest thing that I've ever done. But you owe it to yourself to do it. You have to do it because you can't give up, and you can't let them win. They are using things like hate and discrimination and just a unnecessary need to control other people's lives. And it sucks and it's hard and it hurts, but you are worth so much better than that. If you are going through that now, just hang tight and fight back because you cannot let those bastards win. They may be able to legislate things like who you can marry. They may be able to legislate if you are a transgender person joining the military. They may be able to give you those things and take those things back. But what they cannot ever take away from you is who you are and who you love. Those are two things that are not regulated, not by any God, not by any government, and not by any annoying Christian that wants to tell you what to do. Those things are in your power. So choose yourself instead of choosing the hatred of others. You owe it to yourself. Good night.